It's my opening. For those of you who are new, I had 2 hernias repaired Wednesday. So I've got a pretty big, I thought they were going to do it orthoscopically, but I got one cut on me that's about this long. And I had asked my surgeon, it's like, well, will I be okay to preach on Sunday, after the Wednesday surgery? Oh, you'll be fine. But now that I'm standing here, I'm thinking, he's never preached after hernia surgery. So anyway, we'll see how this goes, all right? So we're in a series, Adventures in Love, and we've talked about God of love, we've talked about loving others, and before Easter here, we're taking a little turn toward how do we love ourselves? Or maybe self-compassion, or the title of this message, Radical Compassion. Radical Compassion. It's interesting. I think most people don't love themselves very well. What do you think? Anybody ever wrestle with self-compassion, self-care? It's interesting, when Jesus was asked what's the greatest commandment, and in the Torah there's about 613 commandments. That's actually the command verb form in the Hebrew text of the Torah, which is the first 5 books. And so you end up with about 613 of them, and it was a big debate among rabbis which ones were the greatest. And I love Jesus' response. He said, it's easy, Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. The other one that Jesus added to that was love your enemy, which is really challenging, right? But loving yourself, and I think there's a lot of reasons why we can struggle with self-compassion. I'm going to use self-compassion versus self-love. And the reason for that is because I think we get hung up on self-love. How many of you would think self-love was a negative thing? Anybody? Okay, not very many. Okay. Growing up. Yeah. Yeah, and let's just, for those of you, even if you don't feel that way about it, what do some people think about when they think of self-love? Yeah, I think they think of a narcissistic personality disorder, right? If you look at narcissistic personality disorder, you've got somebody who's extremely self-centered, grandiose thoughts of themselves, want attention all the time, and have no empathy for other people, right? So it basically live a very self-centered life, focused on themselves, very little empathy on anybody else around them. And so when we think about a narcissist or self-love, that's what a lot of people think of, as somebody who's very self-centered. So I think that has hindered our ability to practice self-care, self-compassion. So I go with the term self-compassion. We could say self-love. I'm not against that term. It's just that I'm using self-compassion because a lot of people, I think, can wrestle with that. So it's interesting, too. I think a lot of us have some strikes against us when it comes to self-compassion. Have any of you ever felt like you got caught in a trance of unworthiness? Where cycling through your own head, thoughts about your own self, just negative, 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 negative. We could call it an inner critic. We could call it a trance of unworthiness. But think about what happens in our lives is that we tend to push away from things that we don't like. We have negative emotions. We want to push away from them. We want to feel better fast. And so we can run to things that sort of numb us to some degree or another. So we could think of addictions to food or alcohol or drugs, substance addictions. We could think of behavioral types of addictions where you get caught in any number of activities. What's interesting is so many things are a gift from God. They're good gifts, right? But then we sort of distort them a little bit and then turn them into negative things. So it's great to shop, right? Nothing wrong with shopping, but like I've actually known people who go on shopping sprees when they feel negative about themselves, and then they run up their credit card, and then, when they start having to pay their credit card off, then they're feeling worse about themselves even more, right? Or you can go down the gaming hole or the social media hole, and you can chase rabbits down that hole. And, the algorithms are wired to what? Anger, negativity. So, in today's world, if you take a spin into the rabbit holes of social media and everything, it's so easy to just move into an even more negative frame of mind, right? Think about finding fault in other people, blaming other people. We feel bad about ourselves, so we project it outwards, and we find fault in other people. We compare ourselves to other people. Comparison is such a trap, right? And we compare ourselves, and some people, the narcissists think they're better than everybody else, but a lot of people end up they think they're worse than everybody. Everybody's a better mother. Everybody's a better father. Everybody's a better this or a better that. Or self-judgment. We judge our own feelings. Have you ever told yourself, I shouldn't be feeling this way? I'm coming in here this morning and I'm thinking, I should be tougher than this. What's wrong with you, Fred? It's just all these little games that our mind can play about ourselves. We get into judging our feelings. We get into judging our thoughts. We get into all kinds of just critical self-analysis. So that trance of unworthiness can really encapsulate us. I think another reason why this happens, and we can get caught in this trance of unworthiness, is because we have a negativity bias. And I've mentioned this before, but the most ancient part of the human brain is the amygdala. If you do some studies on the amygdala, you'll even hear about something called the amygdala hijack. And this is stuff that's studied in emotional intelligence, but your amygdala is the most ancient part of your brain, the fight, flight, freeze part. It's there for good reasons, so don't hate your amygdala. I could get to where I hated my amygdala because it kept me up at night. My brain would race all night, and I'd have insomnia because my brain would be flipping out on fight, flight, freeze things that were going on in the world or in my work or in church or this or that or the other, and my brain could just spin out on it at night, and then I stay awake all night. And so that's the amygdala hijack. It's fight, flight, freeze. Our amygdala is always scanning the horizon of our experience, looking for things that could threaten us. In the tribal hunter-gathering days, you might get killed if your amygdala wasn't sharp enough and fast enough, right? But in today's world, we have things that trigger us that aren't going to kill us. In fact, a lot of the stuff that triggers us is actually fake news and reruns in our own brain. And we run these inner critiques, this trance of unworthiness, these different thoughts. And a lot of it's not even real that our minds are just flipping out on and running on. See, so we have that negativity bias, right? So we have this thing, well, we don't want to be self-centered, and then we have this thing where our minds are constantly trying to spot things that could hurt us. So that's why Rick Hansen, who's a psychologist, says that negativity sticks to our brain like Velcro. positivity slips off of our brain like Teflon, right? So actually, to actually absorb positive, wholesome things into our very being, into our brain, into our nervous system, we actually have to press into it, meditate on it, pause, reflect, practice gratitude. And when we actually spend 15, 20, 30 seconds on positivity, it begins to actually affect our nervous system. And but many times we don't do that. Our brain constantly runs. We're regretting the past or we're worrying about the future. How many of you actually have trouble being present in the moment with your own self or with people? So you can just be running. Your brain's just going. So we've got this inner critic thing. We've got a negativity bias. And then some of you have grown up in theology that tells you you're a dirty, rotten piece of this or that or the other. So there's a doctrine called original sin. And I'm going to pick on this a little bit, all right? I was brought up in this idea, original sin, right? And basically starts off the story as, yeah, you're a dirty, rotten, no good piece of this, but thank God Jesus died on the cross for you and you can be forgiven. Jesus died on the cross and you can be forgiven. That's awesome. But what is your true core identity? And where does the story start if you go back to Genesis? Does it start in Genesis 3, which is where people derive doctrine of original sin? Is that the first chapter? So how many of you go open the Bible and you start with Genesis chapter 3? They call that the fall. Adam and Eve ate the apple. Yeah, so it's her fault. And, you've been around these churches, right, that teach this, okay. Yeah. So original sin. What does the actual chapter 1 start with? Does it start out with how you're a dirty, rotten this or that, the other? What does it say? The Imago Dei, right? It's Latin, the image of God. You are created in the image and likeness of God. And then what did God say about it? He's like, he's creating all this stuff, good, 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 good. And then in the Hebrew it goes, tov meod. It's very good. Like God is celebrating the beauty of humanity made in the image and likeness of God. Your true identity is one who bears the image and likeness of God. You are a person of worth and dignity. You are a person of infinite value. To think that God's love is so amazing that it's manifested everywhere through this universe. And as we come to Easter, we're even going to be moving toward this beautiful story of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, who displays the heart and the love of God for all humanity. So do all of us have a time or two when maybe somebody hurts us and sins against us and we feel wounded by that? Have any of you ever done something where you did something hurt yourself or hurt somebody else? So we've all had relationship issues where we've hurt, where we felt broken, where we felt maybe even shattered. But is that our true identity? No, our true identity is we are loved by God. We are made in His image. We are people of worth and dignity and value. And yet, we can have parents who raise us and don't speak that truth over us. I've had many times where I've been counseling with somebody and the reel that runs through their head was the thing that a parent said to them over and over again: you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything. And when parents with significant influence, raising those little brains that are growing up, speak these kinds of negative words over a human being who's made in the image of God, a person of worth and dignity and value, and then instead they flip the story around and tell that person that they're a no good piece of dirty this or that or the other, that functions like a curse. It literally functions like, and it plays in your head, and we need to be healed from that stuff. So part of self-love, listen to this, a part of self-love is we need to love ourselves into healing. We need to rewrite the tapes that play in our brain. We need to recognize the negative belief systems that we've latched onto. Have you ever asked yourself the question, why do we hold so tightly to our own self-judgment? Why do we hold so tightly to our own self-judgment? And what would happen if we let it go? What would happen if you just let that go? So childhood experiences, negativity bias, bad theology, there's a lot of stuff that can get thrown into this whole system of ours, and then we have this inner critic that just grinds us out. How many of you would say stuff to yourself, mean stuff, that you typically wouldn't say to another human being? I'm just kind of curious if you think about it. I'm probably a little bit ADHD normally. So like I'll be in my office studying, and I'll think, oh, I got to go get this thing over there in my living room. And it's a whole 5 seconds away, from my office. I get up, I walk over into the place in the kitchen, and then by the time I get to the kitchen, I forgot what I went to the kitchen for. I think I was just getting old. But then my freshman roommate at Baylor, I said this to him one day, and he says, nah, you've always been that way. So our brains can be kind of crazy like that, right? And then what do? Like if I miss a turn going down the highway, have you ever done that? And then the exit, it's going to take you at least 5 or 10 minutes to get back to where you originally wanted to be. And I can just almost like curse myself out for missing the exit. But if somebody else was driving and they missed the exit, I'd be super chill. I'd be, oh, no worries. It's only going to affect you 5 or 10 minutes. But if I do it, I'll chew myself out, like kind of emotionally give myself a spanking. So I think most human beings, in fact, aren't narcissistic. I actually think most human beings are tough on themselves and need healing in the area of self-compassion. I truly believe that. I've seen it. And honestly, I think if we learn to love ourselves well, we're going to be better equipped to love others well. I think love flows that way. When we receive it well, we give it well. So we're like a container in some ways where we can receive love and then allow that to be poured out around us. So it's a huge, huge thing that we want to walk in. Shame and negative beliefs are things that we need to be healed of. Shame is that inner critic. Shame is an unwanted story. If you've ever had something happen in your life and that's not the story you wanted of your life, you can have shame around an unwanted story. And shame can be never good enough. So we need healing from our inner critic and from our negative self-perceptions. We need to practice self-compassion and love ourselves into healing. We need to receive the love of God. And we need to hear what God says about our deepest identity and build our identity around that. Romans 8:1 says, there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. like there's none. It doesn't say there's a little bit. It doesn't say there's enough to crush your spirit, or there's just enough to make you fly right and fly straight, you know. No, there's actually no condemnation. You are loved, you are accepted, you are valued, you're a person of dignity and worth. God knows your name and holds you in the heart of the loving God of the universe. This is a beautiful identity to place ourselves in. So I want to just take a moment and do a little meditation of self-compassion. Why don't you join with me? You can open your hands up like this, or maybe place your hands on your own heart. And I'm just going to give you some phrases, and you can repeat these. We're just going to go through some statements of affirmation about yourself. And we'll just say these slowly, and you can repeat them after me if you'd like to, okay? I am a child of God. I am loved by God. I bear the image of God. I am a person of worth and dignity. I am accepted by God. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do hard things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do beautiful things, creative things, loving things. I can walk with the love of Jesus in my heart. I can share that love everywhere I go. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I accept myself just as I am. May I touch deep peace. May I walk with self-compassion. Love for God. Love for others. And yes, even love for my enemies. So God, surround us in this love. Fill us with this love. Begin to shape our identity and heal us from the shame, the inner critic, the self-judgment, and begin to help us to practice compassion towards ourselves and help us to treat ourselves like we would treat our most precious pet or our most dearly beloved brother or sister or mom or dad or sibling or friend. Help us to practice love for self in a way that flows into love for others, love for God, and may we live that love everywhere we go. So God, thank you for each person here. Thank you that they're created in your image and they're a person of dignity and worth, and that you know their name, and that your love is ever constant, deeper, wider, broader than anything we could ever imagine. May we walk in this love, and may we flow in it, receive it, and give it. In Jesus' name, amen.